Hi there, I'm Carol Cruz, and I'm the host of Cruising on the Edge podcast. I wanted to take a moment to share with you my venture into podcasting, which just only started back in October of 2025 when I saw a webinar with David Strand and CJ, the founders of my seven figure podcast. They have been able to build a community of beginners like myself and people that are seasoned in podcasting. I've learned so much in the short period of time that I've been with them. I signed on as a full-time podcaster, and I gotta tell you, it has been a game changer. We have weekly growth sessions, Q&As, and there's also modules, learn as you go, from soup to nuts, to what equipment to use, to how to build your platform. It is amazing. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can become a podcaster, or you just want to get your story or your voice out there, this is a great platform to do so. So please follow the link below, and hopefully we'll see you in our community of great podcasters. You take care now. Is really integrating, what do you want to do? What does that look like for you? Asking you those open-ended questions, the what, the how, and how can I help you get there? So I say, and I do hear from folks that, have a bad taste in the mouth and they don't want to go to the show. Like today, I go to Recovery Dharma. I do a lot of Recovery Dharma online. I do more BIPOC groups, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Why? Because I am a person of color. Why? Because it's a safe space for me. It's different.
Yeah.
It's a different spiritual walk for me. It's now I'm not looking to become a Buddhist, but I am inspired by the Buddhist theory
hmm
and how, I can choose to be in suffering or I can choose to be happy today. And most of us, when we're coming into recovery, we don't know what that looks like.
That's right. That you're bringing up some very valid points around it. This is an evolution
Mhm.
that's occurring for anybody in recovery. 46 years is a good start. It's
Mhm.
still daily reprieve based on a spiritual condition. And when I came in, it was uh, at the time of Claudia Black having a beehive hairdo, for God's sake, in the 80s. And so,
Aquadet.
yeah,
Shh.
yeah, right. So, but she mentioned uh, something very, very important that was only 1% of all the addicts were in recovery.
Mhm.
Now, because of all the discoveries and other treatment modalities, it's about 11%. And I may have that wrong. It may be even more than that. So we're really improving, even though it's slow. It's been improving over the years because we're not just going to 12 step and we don't have sick people helping sick people. Uh, and I don't, that's why I say I'm a therapist, but I'm not much of a therapist
You had a good
because
one.
you got to keep it light about that stuff,
Right.
and when people say, oh, what you said saved my life and all that stuff, I take that with a big grain of salt because I don't even remember their name, number
Mhm.
one. And number two is it's between them and their creator. That's what I think.
Right.
And That's what I believe. And it's not because of my great sponsor or something like that. I think they are great.
Mhm.
But by the same token, everybody that walks through that threshold, I have a very soft spot in my heart because I think everybody's great. They just don't know it yet.
Right.
But
Like
I'll be,
I
but
said the other day, everybody can dance. You just have to find your footing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. But I'll be the
Beat to
first
your
one.
own, move
Yeah.
to your own rhythm.
And I'll be the first one to forgive myself because as you know, we've
That's
talked
part of the
about this
dance.
before. Well, I make a lot of mistakes.
Hmm.
I make an awful lot of mistakes. So, But I'll be the first one in the room usually because I learned how to love myself, to
Mm-hmm.
forgive myself. Watch this, Carol.
There you go. Got it. Hey. I love it, John. You mentioned also too, things that can trip people up, right? You mentioned acceptance and forgiveness, which are keys to that pathway. And I had to forgive myself first, so that I could be the mom that I wanted to be. That I thought I'd never be a mother,
Mhm,
and it was getting pregnant with my son and having him during my active addiction and stop using street
mhm,
drugs at the time, 5 days later. Um, but I had to walk that path. And sometimes it was a couple steps back and a couple steps forward, but there was always something or a community, or it was a meeting, or a sponsor, or friend, or my clinician, that helped me. And again, and God,
mhm,
God of my understanding was where I could let go of the things that I could no longer change. I
mhm,
couldn't change the past,
mhm.
I could only change, and I couldn't project, although that was probably a good point of my active drug use, was always projecting.
That's
I'm going to stop tomorrow, or, well, you know what? I have nothing to look forward to in the future
yeah.
because my life is such a mess.
That is so, I mean, you would think that we could remember that. I have a hard time staying in this moment and forgetting the fact that uh, I need to stay connected.
Mhm.
I make mistakes. I'm not a mistake, but I
Right.
make plenty of mistakes. And bless them, change me. That's a good prayer to have. When somebody's ticking me off, it's because I'm probably seeing something in them that reminds me of me, but it's
Oh, reflection. Woof.
so much easier to throw
Hmm.
them under a bus and bury them in the backyard. But that's not spiritual.
Right. Right.
You've got bless them, change
We're
me.
pointing this way versus pointing this way,
Yes.
which three fingers are pointing back at us. So that should also give us that, signal, hey, something's up.
Yeah.
Something needs to change in me. It's not something, and again, I know that's in the big book, what needs to change in me. The acceptance
Mm-hmm.
prayer, right?
Valley
What
prayer,
needs to
yeah.
change in me? It might be my attitude. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely might be my attitude or my perception or how my view. Recovery 12 step gave me a different view. I was walking in my mother's view because I would go to meetings with her. She started going to meetings when I was 12, and I was grateful to have my mother back, you know, and start to build a different relationship with her. But at that time also, I was kind of stepping into the lifestyle, because why? There was trauma, untreated trauma, which I shared this a few times. I was diagnosed, with complex PTSD at 60. That was only 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew it, and I had gone to, clinicians or therapists or been in part of groups, but I wasn't hearing what I needed to hear, or at least I wasn't absorbing. I was probably hearing the answers, but I had to walk that path of darkness. I had to walk that path of uncertainty and unforgiveness of myself so that I could come out at the other side. Some of
Right.
us don't get that opportunity. Some
Yeah,
of us don't
you're
allow
absolutely
us
right.
to get ourselves that opportunity. We give up before the miracle happens.
Yeah, the origins of the substance abuse is something to be discovered uh, after we put the plug in the jug or put the needle down or put the ropes down or whatever, put the crack down, whatever we do, uh, those are just a way to feel good.
Mhm.
Now, and that's what hijacks our brain, but the origin seems to be abuse and abandonment issues, which is total trauma. And to deal with trauma, we only it starts in the back of our brain, and we have like many seconds to realize I want to change this, and then get that neurochemistry and neuroplasticity to work up to the prefrontal cortex. And in the middle is where we got hijacked in the first place, the hypothalamus, the midbrain. So
Mhm.
we want to get all those neurochemicals up there, and the right behavior like honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, and talking out the trauma, talking out uh, the trigger, and then eventually we can have wisdom because we've done the
Mhm.
work in our brains, and we have to treat our brains very well, and this takes a long time.
Mhm.
We don't get that one and done in treatment. I mean, it usually takes years. Like I said, I was living in my parents' basement for 4 years,
Mhm.
sober, just to get a little peace of mind. I was willing to take those kinds of sacrifices because, left to my own devices, I was too afraid to even try. Uh, I was afraid of self-destructing. So I had a lot of connection and stayed involved. And then eventually I had my own place uh, uh, and lived alone for a while, then started dating. That took about 5 or 6 years because of the fear of making movement. So some of us are quicker than others, some of us are sicker than others.
Mhm.
It's like slow and sick.
Yeah, and it's great that we can laugh about that, right? And so, we both old school, I know you have I'm 31 years in recovery and you are
46.
46 years in recovery, which
It's
again,
not
we're both
quality. It's
miracles
not
sitting here
quality,
in front of
Carol.
you, in front of this audience that might be viewing this. And that's a lot of years, right? That's 70, do the math, right? That's 77 years, right? Like
77 years.
77 years, yeah. That's a lot. And we know that people do recover in those spaces, in those mutual aid rooms, in treatment, on medication assistance treatment. That was I'm sorry, I forgot to turn off my phone. We know that that happens in those spaces. How do how have you navigated the my mother would call it the new age of wellness and recovery if she was still with us.
I think
Um,
it, yeah, I
yeah,
think it
how do you see, the generation of people that are addicted, especially the opioid crisis? We lost thousands of young people, a majority ages between 18 and 25 and 30. We are seeing more older adults, coming into recovery, getting on medication assistance treatment, and that could be Vivitrol, Suboxone, methadone. Still, they utilize that. I used it back in the early 90s. But how do you see what how your recovery was then, how you started off 46 years ago to what we're experiencing now in the treatment field and in the recovery field?
I see a I think things pendulums go
Hmm.
back and forth, back and forth. We started out with a lot of peers helping people in treatment and in the 80s, and that's happening again now with recovery coaches and KDAC, uh, you know, those, people with experience in recovery, helping other people that are beginning in recovery. Uh, so that, I think the pendulum has swung, or we've gone full circle with that. Uh, Clinically, we didn't have as much medication assisted therapy that happened basically in the late 90s and 2000s, where there were lots of medicines for different psychiatric disorders. And I think that's going to continue. And that's probably helped the opioid crisis when people follow directions with that. When you don't follow directions with methadone and Suboxone and things like that, it's just more of the same craziness that can occur, and it affects family members too. That I think we've always lived in an addictive society since uh, probably the 19th century, when all trade was starting to happen, crazy with opium and stuff like that. Uh, but the fentanyl is just was a we'd never seen anything like fentanyl.
It's
And
devastating.
and and that's when I had already retired, and they pulled me back in like Godfather 3. Every time I think I'm
Just
in,
the
they
way
pull
I
me back
thought I
in.
was out, they pull me back in.
That's right. And so I was retired, and I but I went back into IOP and became their night person. And unfortunately for me, there's something very sick about me. I loved it and did that for about 5 or 6 years, and into my 70s, and finally, I'm still per diem at this place, Feral Treatment Center, but they don't utilize me hardly at all. But I'm using their computer right now, so uh, at any rate, uh, it, and if they wanted me, I would certainly do it, because there's such a need.
It is.
But people don't want an older gentleman. They want something very, very
Yeah.
contemporary to
Yeah.
them, and God knows you don't blame them for that. But I've seen, and I don't want to work as hard as a clinician works.
Right.
They are My hat goes off to every professional. I know we get a bad rap because we make mistakes and stuff. I'm trying to cover cover our bases with that, but it's like any healthcare professional. My hat's off to every one of us, because we are trying to do something that we don't have a final say in. It's between them and their creator.
Right.
And yeah. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, and again, this flow of conversation. I have no doubts that people are going to catch in, or something's going to drop in that they can identify, or just say, "Hey, I didn't know, wasn't even aware of that." Um, I've talked to many parents that have, lost their loved ones. I have lost friends during the height of the opioid crisis. I say epidemic, really, and it's a continual crisis because it turned from, oxycodone to fentanyl, right? That came quickly on the scene, very cheap, easy access. We just saw people literally dropping like flies. And as a professional, and it's really going to work into that title of our podcast today, is that wellness. And, it kind of brings us back around full circle to why we do the things we do to prepare ourselves. I work in crisis, literally on the phone. I All I hear is people. I don't see them. I can't reach out and touch with them. I can't say, "Hey, meet me on Tuesday at the coffee shop," or whatever. These are people actually out of state. They're in Massachusetts. I work for the company, and I love the work, but I got to tell you, if I get two or three or five calls a night, and out of five, two of them are high end, high risk crisis calls around substance use or domestic violence, or suicide ideation, suicide attempts. This is what I'm hearing. I have probably on a 5 day, today's my day off. So yesterday was my Friday, and I had a really extreme call last night. I have to I messaged my supervisor and said, hey, I need to take about 5 minutes. I need to take an extra 5 minutes. I can't go on cue right now. I need to take a step back. That last call, and I'm exhaling as I'm typing because I absorb at the moment. I'm listening. I'm putting on my good listening skills, ears, and I'm trying to ask those good questions. I'm trying to build that rapport. All the things that we do as a clinician, as a peer support specialist, as an advocate, right? We want to meet those folks where they're at. We want to provide emotional support and affirmations, validations, things that they may not have heard because they're so deep within the crisis. I realize that I have to take off that skin. When 12:30 hits, 12:30 a.m. hits, I'm literally couching it, I'm absorbing into something on TV because I can't go to sleep right away you know I don't do it. That was my routine. Other people may have different routines, but for me, I have to, my part of my wellness regimen in my profession at this time is that, one, I have to talk about it. I can't disclose, I have to talk about it to my supervisor, but I also have to release it in other ways,
Mhm.
because it's so, it's scary. It is painful, especially when you have someone disconnect and they don't want to move forward. They don't want to move to the next step or call 911 or go to the ER. Yeah.
Yeah, you're really a warrior. You're really a spiritual warrior.
Thanks.
I like to be a spiritual warrior. I think I'm more like a spiritual gangster because of the old school stuff. But
Hey,
but
gang, gang.
but,
Yes.
but
I'll join your gang, John.
but you're more of a war. You're more of a warrior,
I
a
think we
spiritual
all are,
warrior.
John.
And to uh, and to be doing this as long as we have been doing it is a testimony to our passion for this, because we're not the final variable, and but
Mhm.
it is so wonderful. Uh, I'll go back to the podcast that's right out there right now. I call it Sam the Man.
Mhm.
And I got to see him come off the street, go into 12 step and never take a drink again. Got married when he was a year into recovery, was drinking around the clock, and got married a year later, still married to a wonderful person, and is an author now, is a poet, and he does meditation at retreats. He's been very, very helpful to people. We're part of a solution now instead
Yeah.
of a part of a problem. And the two hatters like us, I think I just have tremendous respect for anybody that's doing this, that's in recovery too. Uh, but I also know many great spiritual warriors that aren't in recovery like we are.
Right.
And they are fantastic people also. So,
Yeah. Thank you, John. As we start to wrap up our conversation, and I know you and I could talk. The first time we met was on a Zoom call, and we talked for over an hour. Um, I definitely would love to have you back. I know we're gonna schedule some time where I can get to be on your podcast, and you can throw the questions out at me. Which I am so grateful and so open to that. I've been an open book, and thank you for calling me a warrior. Sometimes as an advocate, when I have that hat on, and it interchanges, and also keep the hat on. I'm a grandmother, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a friend, I'm a community leader. And there's many hats that we wear, but the one hat that I have I'm so grateful that I have an opportunity. I'm a podcaster, but the one hat I is Carol.
Yeah.
Finally, through recovery, I have found my pain. Through the pain, I found my purpose.
Hmm.
This is another part of my journey, in podcasting, meeting up with folks like yourself, and I can't wait for us to meet in person one day, maybe at the summit in July. I plan on going. I've already paid for my ticket, so at least the ticket for the registration. I haven't gotten my plane ticket yet. That's the next that's the next bill down the road. But what do you want our listeners? What do you hope for our listeners
Well,
to get
anybody that,
from this talk that we had today?
yeah, I think if you have a problem and you're still not sure if you can do this, uh, by all means, just keep on reaching out and trying. A lot of people will fail at this until they get it. And I don't know when people get it, but you're going to, if you get knocked down, all you have to do is get back up one more time than you got knocked down. It's
Mhm.
not, this is not rocket science. This is about you taking care of you, uh, uh, and taking suggestions to do that and getting connected with people. It's very, very hard to ask for help. It's one of the most difficult things, and everybody needs it. I need it, you need it, the new person needs it, and just don't give up. You're worth it. I'm worth it. You're worth it. The other person's worth it. Uh, that's
Thank
what
you,
I
John.
think.
You reminded me of and I'll give a quick summary of a poem. I believe the author was Portia, their name Portia. But I go down a road, chapter one. I go down the road and I fall into a hole, and someone comes around and I get out of the hole. And then, by chapter two, I'm doing the same thing, and by chapter five, I'm suggested take another route.
Yeah.
And that may be what you need to do. And that's what I love about the multiple pathways that someone can find wellness. Some people don't even talk about recovery. When I talk about the work that I do as a harm reductionist, I'm like, hey, John, how's the kids today? Do you need something from our pantry? I'm not talking about their drug use. I'm building rapport.
Right,
At the
right.
same time, I'm making sure that they are equipped with the tools that they need to stay alive.
Yeah. So many things you've
Yeah.
said. I could keep on going too.
I know, I know. And so thank you again, John, for your wisdom, for your heart, and just all the things, that you bring to this table. I'm looking forward to you and I, learning more about each other, maybe doing some more other partnerships and other platforms. Who knows? Who knows? All possibilities are open. I'm open. Looking forward to my retirement one day and just doing this full time and just being out there, hearing from other people's stories. But thank you so much for what you give to your community, to your family. I want to thank everyone for listening today, to John and I. We hope that you gain some understanding. Look at the I over the E, your intellect over your emotions. Don't do this alone. Stay connected. And thank you for cruising on the edge with Carol Cruz and John. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Love you.
Love you too, hon.